life story, although much of that is very familiar to us. In many ways, if we just take an overview of his life, I think one of the things that's there is a tremendous sense of providence. And we can just ponder how providence works in our own lives, how providence has been there, how God is a provident God. But certainly we're speaking about a providential life. And in many ways, we're talking about a scholar pope. What's most noteworthy now, of course, is the many years of his papacy. But that's why it's worthwhile taking a look at his early life and the struggle as he was growing up in Nazi and then communist-occupied Poland, but also his scholarly side. He was clearly an intellectual as well as being pope. Born in Poland, of course, Karol Wojtyła, May 18th, 1920. His mother died in 1929 and an older brother in 1932, and so he moved in 1938 with his father to Krakow, and perhaps we more associate him with Krakow, where he began studies at the Jagiellonian University, well-known, famous university in Krakow, studies in literature, theater, philology, Polish studies. All of those were the areas of interest at that time. He moved there with his father in 1938, and a little over a year later, September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland and World War II began. And so shortly thereafter, he began work really at a quarry and then later a chemical plant, so very much a manual laborer, no longer the student that he had come to Krakow to be. And within a year, 1941, his father died. So he now was without his older brother, mother, or father. In 1944, which gets closer to the end of that first period in his life, as a person simply being there in Nazi Germany, the Archbishop Sapia started an underground seminary in his own residence, and Wojtyła was chosen to be one of the first 10 participants. So he becomes a seminarian, and the next year, 45, the German occupation ends, but the Russian army arrives. And a year later, he is ordained a priest. So all of his seminary preparation would have been during the time of German occupation and then Russian influence and occupation. Shortly after being ordained a priest in mid-November, he leaves Poland for graduate theological studies, his talents obviously well recognized, and he goes to study at the University of St. Thomas, better known as the Angelicum, in Rome, administered by the Dominican friars, the order of preachers. He completes in 1948 his first doctorate, in a sense, there at the Angelicum, having done a dissertation on faith in the thought or the writings of St. John of the Cross. St. John of the Cross being so significant for him throughout his life and in his thinking, but in a kind of odd way, he did not really receive the degree because he was not able to afford having the dissertation printed. And in order to obtain the degree itself, the dissertation had to be printed so that it was considered published. So that degree was later granted by the Jagiellonian University back in Krakow that accepted his thesis. And back in Krakow, he was assigned to parish work where he did much youth ministry, family ministry at St. Florian's. And in the 1950s, 1954, the Jagiellonian University